Back when the world was younger and the sky sat closer to the earth, the people could fly. Oh, not all of them, but some of the people in Africa were able to stretch their arms to wings and take flight across the wide plains and deep forest. But slowly, over time, fewer people remembered the old ways. And then the boats came, and it was too tight for wings, too tight for freedom, too dark for light or remembering. And it was darker still when the boats landed, despite the hot summer sun. Somewhere on those foreign shores, maybe Virginia, maybe Mississippi, the name may change, but the story stays the same. There was a master crueler than some, still kinder than others, and he worked his slaves to the bone, to exhaustion, to death. And then he would send for others to take their places. When the old man showed up, the master didn't think much of it, except to wonder how many years of work he had left in his weathered hands. The old man got to work beside the others. From sun up to sundown, with no hint of rest or shade, they labored. When they faltered, the driver was there with his whip, cracking through the air like thunder. The old man never slowed, but one woman did. She was called something like Sara, and she'd recently born her first child. By rights, it was too soon. She was too weak to be in the field and the child too new for sun, though she'd wrapped and strapped him to her back as best she could. Before long, the baby started to cry, and no amount of shushing would soothe him. His cries grew louder and louder until they drew the driver's eyes. "Hush that noise," he barked. But when the crying grew more insistent, he cracked his whip across them both. Sara had no breath to cry out nor to stand, and she fell amongst the cotton to the dry earth. The old man helped her up, whispering low. His tongue was foreign to the overseer, and he wouldn't have understood even if he'd heard. "Soon?" she asked. The old man shook his head. "Not yet, daughter." He lifted her bushel onto his back and helped her regain her balance. But before long, sick and weary as she was, Sara fell again, and the baby continued to wail. Like clockwork, the whip crashed through the air. 3 more times she fell, and twice more the old man said, "Not yet." But the 3rd time, he held her hands tightly and closed her eyes. Sara felt a breeze, like a memory and an invitation. "It's time," he said. "Softly, you can hear them calling. Go now, you know the way." Then he stretched his arms with hers, up to the heavens, and he spoke the words that sounded like wind. Tentatively at first, Sara stepped out onto the air, and then she took another step and let go of his hands. And she smiled, face full of sunlight, and leapt. The overseer ran, red-faced and screaming, to the last place her foot had touched the ground. She was gone, soaring like a bird. "A trick of the light," he said. "Dehydration dreams, perhaps." But the next day, he did not look for Sara. But others knew what they had seen. Before long, another had fallen victim to the back-breaking pace and the scorching midday sun. No sooner had the young man fallen than the whip came down. The old man was there, helping him to his feet and whispering the old words. Though the young man did not understand, the words called to him, and he laughed deeply, the kind of laugh that bubbles up inside of you and takes flight. He jumped into the air as if swinging on a cloud, and then he too was gone, his laughter echoing like birdsong. Soon more men, women, and children were falling under the heat and strain. The old man was at their sides, sometimes before the whip, sometimes after. To each he spoke those words that felt like they were swallowed up by the wind as soon as said. Remembering, they rose. Up, up, and away they went, flying with abandon. "Get that man!" the overseer shouted. And even the master had been drawn outside by the commotion. He came running, gun in hand. The old man only laughed, and it seemed to his pursuers that he was slippery as a shadow. "Now," he called to all those who remained in the field. He spoke the old words again, and each one heard his voice as if it were coming from within. Those who were near each other clasped hands. They felt each other's strength, and they remembered their own power. The old man stretched his hands out one last time, and they felt the breeze come, sweet like home, soft as a caress, and strong enough to bear them all. They rose into the air as if one flock, crying and laughing and stretching their wings toward freedom, toward the sun. The driver, overseer, and master watched them long after they were little more than dots on the horizon. Although they would later disregard their own memories and call it something else, others saw, and they remembered. And while they could not fly themselves or find the wind words, they kept safe the tale of the people who could fly, who had flown to freedom. And now, I am telling it to you.